Welcome back, Spartan. Number 1 says, the table represents some points on the graph of a linear function. Which function represents this relationship? The 4 answer choices are all equations in slope-intercept form. To determine the function that represents the relationship shown in the table, use the slope-intercept form of a linear equation, y equals mx plus b, where m represents the slope of the line and b represents the value of the y-intercept. Substitute the x and y coordinates of any 2 points. I'll pick the first 2, -4, 10, and -2, 7 into the slope formula, resulting in -3/2. Next, substitute the x and y coordinates of 6, -5, and the slope, which is -3/2, into y equals mx plus b, and solve for b. Since the slope is -3/2, the correct answer is A, y equals -3/2x plus 4.
Hey y'all, welcome back. Number 2 says, the water level in a tank is changing at a constant rate. The graph shows the relationship between time in hours, x, and the water level in meters, y. Look at the graph, and then complete the statement that describes the rate of change of the water level with respect to time. In other words, we need to fill in the blanks. The water level blanks at a rate of blank meters per hour. To complete the statement that describes the rate of change of the water level with respect to time, you can choose 2 points from the graph and calculate the amount of change. If you use the ordered pairs 0, 9, and 4, 8, and apply the slope formula, you can find the rate of change, which equals -0.25. Since the rate of change is negative, this indicates that the water level is decreasing at a rate of 0.25 meters per hour.
Hey y'all, welcome back. Number 3 says, the graph of quadratic function h is shown. Which function best represents h? To determine the function that best represents the graph, first identify the x-intercepts of the graph. Use those values as u and v to begin constructing a quadratic equation in factored form, letting u equal -3 and v equal 1. You can write h as a function of x in the form a times x plus 3 times x minus 1. Next, multiply the binomials together. Then, solve for a by substituting the coordinates of the vertex into the equation. Now that we know that a equals 1, we can distribute that value to get the equation for h. h of x equals x squared plus 2x minus 3.
Why, hello there. Number 4 says a rectangle has a length of 5 plus 2x inches and a width of 10 inches. A triangle has a base of 30 inches and a height of 4x minus 10 inches. The area in square inches of the rectangle is equal to the area in square inches of the triangle. What is the value of x? To determine the value of x, you can use the formulas for the area of a rectangle and the area of a triangle and set those 2 expressions equal to each other. Substitute 5 plus 2, x into L, 10 into W, 30 into B, and 4, x minus 10 into H. Using the distributive property gives us 50 plus 20x equals 60, x minus 150. You can solve this equation using properties of equality, which results in x equals 5, so our answer is D.
Hello and welcome back. Number 5 says, which expression is a factor of 30x squared minus 4x minus 16? To factor this quadratic trinomial, first factor out the greatest common factor, which is 2. Next, we can use the technique of factoring by grouping, which, as you can see, gives us the remaining factors, which are 5x minus 4 and 3x plus 2. Since 5x minus 4 is the only available option, the correct answer is C.
Hey y'all, welcome back. Number 6 says, the table shows the number of species added to the United States endangered species list each year for several years. A linear function can be used to model the data. Which correlation best describes the strength of the linear association between the number of species added to the United States Endangered Species List and the year? Correlation is the measure of strength of a relationship between two variables. To determine the correlation, you can use the linear regression feature on a graphing calculator. For example, on a TI-84, press Stat, Edit, and input all the data. X values should go into L1 and Y values should go into L2. Make sure that stat diagnostics are on by pressing mode and finding that option in the menu. Press stat again, but this time arrow over to calc. Scroll down until you find LINREG, which stands for linear regression. Press enter and then go down to calculate. Press enter and the calculator will display the correlation coefficient, which is R. Other calculators may find R differently, so make sure you know how to use the one you plan on using for the test. The correlation coefficient that best models this data is approximately -900, so the correct answer is B.
Are we on? We're on. Welcome back. Number 7 says, a part of a linear function is shown on the grid. Wait, hold on, Jamie, quick, pull that grid up. What is the range of the part of the linear function shown? The range is the set of all y values that are represented on the graph. And to determine the range, identify all the y values for which the graph has an x value. Notice how the graph extends from -4 at its lowest point to 2 at its highest point. Also check out the segment's endpoints. The closed black point indicates that we want to include y equals 2, and the open white point indicates that we do not want to include y equals -4. Since the endpoints are connected, the line segment in between shows that we also want to include all the y values between -4 and 2. Therefore, the range is all real numbers, greater than -4 and less than or equal to 2. Now this is a drop-down problem, so it's basically like a double multiple choice. You'll have to select the correct choice from both menus to complete the sentence.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Problem 8 says, which statement about f of x is true? To determine which statement is true, first factor the trinomial using the technique of factoring by grouping. Hey, would you look at that? Both factors are the same. To find the zeros of the function, we can set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. Since both factors are the same, we only need to do this once. Now we can see that the correct answer is D, because it states the correct 0 and factorization.
Bonjour les amis, and welcome back. Number 9 says, what is the equation of the asymptote of the graph of this exponential function? First of all, an asymptote is a line that the curve approaches, like when Luca approaches the basket and I block his shot. You can easily find the graph of this function by inputting the equation into the y equals menu of your calculator, press graph, and you can see that the graph never crosses the x-axis. As x runs away to infinity, the value of the graph approaches 0. Therefore, the asymptote of the graph of this function is y equals 0.
Hey y'all, welcome back. Number 10 says, which expression is equal to x raised to the power of 3/7 and all of that squared? To determine the equivalent expression, apply the power property, which basically says that when you raise a power to a power, you can multiply the powers. This results in x to the power of 6/7. So our answer is C.
Number 11 says, which statement about the function is true? To answer this question, you need to understand what domain and range mean. The domain of a function is the set of all its x values, and the range is the set of all its y values. Woo! You can easily find the range of this function by inputting the equation into the y equals menu of your calculator. Press graph, and you can see that the lowest y value is -8. Therefore, woo! The range of this function consists of all real numbers greater than or equal to -8. Woo! You don't need to be a Rolex wearing, kid stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun to answer this one. The answer is B.
Hi there, welcome back. I just got back from Capsule Corp and brought back some clothes, and it reminded me of this problem. Number 12 says, a customer is ordering hats and t-shirts from an online store. Each hat costs $7 and each shirt costs $10. The customer receives free shipping if the amount of the order is over $100. Then it asks us to write an inequality that represents all possible combinations of hats, which we will represent with an X, and shirts, which we will represent with a Y, in an order that qualifies for free shipping. So to determine the inequality for all possible combinations of hats and shirts, first represent the total cost of the hats and shirts with the expression 7x plus 10y. The 7 and 10 are the costs of a single hat and shirt, respectively. Next, notice the phrase is over. This can be represented by the inequality symbol greater than, so the phrase is over $100 can be represented by greater than 100. That's pretty much it. All possible combinations of X and Y in an order that qualifies for free shipping should be represented by the inequality 7, X plus 10Y is greater than 100.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a busy week. Number 13 says, an experiment examined the relationship between the number of miles a car traveled per gallon of gasoline and the speed of the car in miles per hour. The table displays the data collected. A quadratic function can be used to model the data in the table, and this question wants you to estimate the miles per gallon when the speed is 65 miles per hour. Which value best estimates the miles per gallon when the speed is 65 miles per hour? And I know what you're thinking, hold on, this data isn't quadratic. The second differences aren't constant. Well, that's true, but that doesn't mean the data isn't approximately quadratic. Take a look at these points on a grid. The second differences are close enough that we can still draw a parabola that more or less goes through or near each point. To find the equation that would have this graph, you can dust off your old graphing calculator and use the quadratic regression feature. Now, of course, each brand of calculator will be a little different, but on a TI-84, press Stat, Edit, and input all the data. X values should go into L1 and Y values should go into L2. Press Stat again, but this time, arrow over to Calc. Scroll down until you find QUADREG, which stands for Quadratic Regression. Press Enter and then go down to Calculate. Press Enter and the calculator will display the coefficients for our quadratic function. We've got an equation to model the data now, so to estimate for the miles per gallon when the speed is 65 miles per hour, substitute 65 for X and type that long equation into your calculator. The output is around 27.9. So that represents the best estimate for the miles per gallon when the speed is 65 miles per hour. Taking a look at our answer choices, and we can clearly see that the correct answer is A. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. And now, this.
And now, people on TV talk about AI the only way they know how.
Natalie, I don't know if you remember the Terminator movies where the computers and the machines started acting like humans. That's what I think of when I think of artificial intelligence.
As someone whose favorite movie is T2 Judgment Day, I am concerned about these machines becoming self-aware and taking over. And I laugh, but I'm also quite serious about it.
There was a movie about this.
Which one?
Terminator.
It makes you have a vision of Skynet and Terminator, right?
All of us have seen the movie Terminator. We know how this ends.
None of them watched Terminator. We know how this ends. Come on.
I've seen this before.
This is Terminator all over again. I've seen this movie before.
You're scared of AI.
Yes, I'm scared. You seen Terminator?
Whether it's a Terminator or not, I want to find out how we can make money on this.
Hey there. It's so good to see you again. Number 14 says, researchers studied the population of a town over time and modeled the data using an exponential function. We have 2 bullet points here, each giving us some information about how many people lived in the town. It says that the initial estimated population was 48,000, and after the first year, the population of the town was 50,400. Now we get to the actual question, which asks, if the population of the town continues to grow at this rate each year, which function can be used to model the population X years after the researchers began their study? We can determine which exponential function models the given values by understanding how exponential functions are set up in the first place. If we write an equation in the form P of x equals a times b to the power of x, a is the initial value and b is the growth factor. X in this case represents the number of years. From the information given, we can see that the initial population of the town was 48,000, so A equals 48,000. Next, we can determine the growth factor B by dividing the population of the town after 1 year by the initial population. This would result in a B value of 1.05, but the answer choices do not have the B value in simplified form, so we can just leave it as 50,400 over 48,000. Once we make the appropriate substitutions, we can see that the correct answer is A. Thanks for stopping by.
Wow, I just said all of that.
Hi there. It's
pretty good.
To see you again. Number 15 says, the graph of the function f of x equals x is transformed to form function g, which equals 3 times f. Which graph represents f and g? To determine which graph represents functions f and g, compare the slope and the y-intercept of both lines on the grid. The graph of f increases at a rate of 1 and has a y-intercept of 0. The graph of function g increases at a rate of 3 and also has a y-intercept of 0. The difference between the two graphs is that the graph of g is increasing 3 times as fast as f. This relationship is best represented by the graph where each y value of g is 3 times the y value of f for the same x value. All of this points us to the correct answer, which is D.
For number 16, we're supposed to find the quotient of the given expression. To determine the quotient, first factor the numerator. To do this, first factor out the GCF, or the greatest common factor, which is 4. Then use the technique of factoring by grouping to find the remaining 2 factors, which are w minus 3 and 2w plus 1. Notice that 2w plus 1 is also in the denominator. Since we have the same factor in both the numerator and denominator, we can reduce those to 1. Remember that anything divided by itself is 1. Multiply the GCF back into the remaining binomial, and we get 4w minus 12, so our answer is B.
Hi, welcome back. Number 17 says, which ordered pair is in the solution set of the given inequality? Also, they give you a graph that you totally don't need. It can help if you know how to graph the inequality, but this problem is honestly easier without it. All you need to do is test each coordinate by substituting the first number into x and the second number into y. Once you check all 4 answer choices, you'll find that the correct answer is 5, -4, so the correct answer choice is A. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Hello and welcome back to this wonderful channel of math videos. Number 18 says, which statement about p of x is true? P of x is an exponential function. We can deduce that by seeing that the x is in the exponent. To answer this question, make sure you understand that the domain of a function is the set of all its x values, and the range is the set of all its y values. To see the domain and the range visually, input the equation into the y equals menu of your calculator. Press graph, and you can see that the graph never crosses the x-axis. We can see that the graph extends infinitely to the left and the right. So the domain is all real numbers. Since the graph never goes above the x-axis, but contains all negative values below the x-axis, we can confidently say that the range is all real numbers less than 0. After correctly identifying the domain and range, we can conclude that the correct answer choice is B. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a splendid day.
Hi there. Number 19 says the graph of a quadratic function is shown on the grid. Which statement appears to be true? Let's work this one out using process of elimination. We can see that the function only has 2 zeros because there are only 2 x-intercepts. The maximum value of this function is 4, not 3. The vertex is definitely not at 4, 1. It is clearly at 1, 4. Finally, yes, the equation of the axis of symmetry is x equals 1. After analyzing each answer choice, we can see that the correct choice is D. Have a great day.
Hej allesammans, välkommen till Balkai. Number 20 says, which expression is equivalent to the square root of 600? To answer this question, you need to factor the 600. Now, there are many factor pairs of 600, but you want to use the largest perfect square factor, which is 100. We can write the square root of 600 as the square root of 100 times 6. Since the square root is really just a fancy way of writing 600 to the 1/2 power, we can use the product property of exponents to split up the square root. After simplifying the square root of 100, we can see that the answer is B, or 10 times the square root of 6. Thanks for watching. Ha det bra.
Hey y'all, welcome back. Problem 21 says a line is graphed on a coordinate grid. Which statement about the line is true? Take a good look at that line. It's a vertical line that crosses the x-axis at x equals -4. This graph represents all the coordinates that have an x value of -4. So that's why the equation is x equals -4. The next thing to figure out is the slope. Now the slope of a line can be calculated with your good friend, the slope formula, which is the rate of change of y with respect to x. You can think of it as the steepness of the line. A line with 0 steepness is totally flat. As the line gets steeper, the slope increases. But what happens when the line is totally vertical? Pick any 2 points and use the slope formula. I'll go with -4, 0 and -4, 1. Boom. We get a divide by 0 error, so the slope is undefined. And that about wraps it up. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day. After I started training in boxing, my mother didn't sign me over yet. I'm in the legal, but I came back, my mother never said, I said, Ma, I just met these guys, these white guys upstate, I'm gonna be champ of the world, and I'm gonna be the youngest champ all. And my mother started looking at me, I said, Ma, I just knocked out 10 guys, I'm the junior Olympic champion of this whole country. Ma, I'm gonna be the world champ, I'm gonna have millions of dollars, girl, I'm gonna buy you a house. My mother looked at me, and the only thing she knows from me is stealing money from her boy, it's being a scumbag. That's all she knows about my son, he can't be trusted. And all of a sudden, she hears me talking with confidence. And then she said, can you imagine that she told me this? She said, don't forget about Joe Louis, because she was a teenager in Joe Louis' time. Don't remember, Joe Louis underestimated somebody and got knocked out. There's always somebody better. I said, Ma, see, the person you're talking about that's always better, that's me.
Hi, friends. I'm so excited to learn about zeros with you today. Number 22 says, the graph of a linear function, f, is shown. What is the zero of f? To determine the zero of a function from its graph, simply identify the x value where the line crosses the x-axis, otherwise known as the x-intercept. Since the line crosses the x-axis at 2, we can say that the zero of f is 2, so make sure to select answer choice C. Bye-bye.
Hello, it's good to see you again. What we have here with problem number 23 is something called a system of equations. A system of equations is nothing more than a list of simultaneous equations whose solution is the set of values that satisfy all of the equations. In this problem, we have 2 equations with 2 variables, so the solution will be the x and y coordinates that make both equations true. There are several ways to solve such a system, but for today I'm going to use the elimination method. The first goal is to eliminate one of the variables by adding the two equations together. However, neither x nor y are eliminated this way if we try. So before we get started, we need to perform a row operation and multiply the first equation by 2 so that the coefficient of that x becomes -6. Once we do that, now we can try to combine the equations again, and look! The x has been eliminated! Now we have a linear equation that we can solve using properties of equality. Doing so yields a y value of 3. At this point we can move on because only answer choice B has a y value of 3. That being said, let's verify our choice by solving for x. To find the x coordinates, simply substitute 3 back into either of the original two equations. I'll choose the second one. After we use some properties of equality to solve 6x minus 3 equals -15, we can see that the x coordinate is -2. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
My cousin at that time, who was 3 years older, was in high school and was having considerable difficulty with his algebra and had a tutor, Kem. And I was allowed to sit in the corner while the tutor would try to teach my cousin algebra. And so problems like 2x plus, I said to my cousin that, I said, what are you trying to do? You know, I hear him talk about x. He said, well, you know, 2x plus 7 is equal to 15, he said, and you're trying to find out what x is. I said, you mean 4? He says, yeah, but you did it with arithmetic. You have to do it by algebra. And that's why my cousin was never able to do algebra, because he didn't understand how he was supposed to do it. There was no way. I learned algebra, fortunately, by not going to school, by knowing the whole idea was to find out what x was, and it didn't make any difference how you did it. There's no such a thing as you don't do it by arithmetic, you do it by algebra. That was a false thing that they had invented in school so that the children who have to study algebra can all pass it. They had invented a set of rules which, if you followed them without thinking, could produce the answer. Subtract 7 from both sides. If you have a multiplier, divide both sides by the multiplier, and so on. A series of steps by which you could get the answer if you didn't understand what you were trying to do.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration of factoring in the history of our nation. Number 24 says, which expressions are equivalent to 12x squared minus 48x plus 48? First, take the original expression and factor out the GCF, or the greatest common factor, which is 12. Then we can factor x squared minus 4x plus 4 into a product of binomials, which both happen to be x minus 2. We can then rewrite this expression as a square. Note that this question allows you to select 2 correct answers, and I can see 2 equivalent expressions here and here. Make sure to select both. Thank you for stopping by, and I look forward to seeing you again.
I'm pulling out of my driveway. You all know what that means. It's time for another Algebra Star question. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about problem number 25, which wants us to write the equation of a quadratic function that has a vertex at 1, 46 and also passes through the point 3, 10. First, let's review the vertex form of a quadratic function. H, k is the vertex, which is the highest point on the graph. A is the coefficient of the quadratic function that controls how wide the parabola opens. This isn't given, so we have to solve for it. Substitute 1 and 46 in for h and k. Since we need to find a, let's also temporarily substitute 3 and 10 into x and y. When we solve for a, it turns out that the a value is -9. Now we have all the information we need because now we know h is 1, k is 46, and a is -9. Clearly the correct answer, choice is D. How magical.
I love you.
Hi, y'all. Number 27 says, the function w of t can be used to estimate the number of whales in the North Atlantic Ocean at the end of t years. What does 1.029 represent in this function? To answer this question, we must understand how exponential functions are set up. If we write an equation in the form w of t equals a times b to the power of t, a is the initial value and b is the growth or decay factor. B represents growth if it is a number bigger than 1. So in this whale problem, we know that the population is growing. Looking back at the given equation, we can determine that the initial number of whales is 270, and the growth factor is 1.029. So you should know you're right that our answer is D.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Number 28 says, a line contains the points -2, -2, and 4, 2, and asks us to find the slope of the line. So if you're going to determine the slope of the line, make sure that you understand what the slope represents, which is the steepness of the line. More specifically, it refers to how the y value changes with respect to the x value. The slope is literally equal to the change in y divided by the change in x. Visually, we can see that the change in y, which I'll call rise, is 2. Additionally, we can see that the change in x, which I'll call run, is 3. Now that we've determined the slope to be 2/3, it's time to select the correct answer choice, which is C. Thanks for watching.
Ciao, e bentornato. Number 29 asks us to find the solution to the given equation. The solution is the number that you can substitute in for w that makes the equation true. One way to solve this is to take advantage of the fact that this is a multiple choice question and substitute each answer, choice into w, until we find the one that makes the equation true. Consider this method if you forget how to solve a linear equation. However, let's go over the proper way of solving this. First, use the distributive property on both sides of the equation. Once you multiply 5 and 4, we get 10w plus 20 equals 8w plus 36. Next, we will use a few properties of equality. Subtract 8w from both sides to collect all the linear terms on the left-hand side. Then, subtract 20 from both sides to collect all the constant terms on the right-hand side. Finally, divide both sides of the equation by 2, which results in our answer, w equals 8. The correct answer choice is B, but since the test isn't going to be timed, spend a moment to substitute 8 back into the equation to verify that it is in fact the solution. Grazie per aver guardato. Arrivederci!
Hola a todos, es bueno verlo. También voy a explicar este problema en español después de explicarlo en inglés. Así que si eres un hablante nativo de español, puedes saltar a la segunda mitad de este video. Okay, let's begin. Number 30 says the two types of tickets sold at a baseball game are standard tickets and discounted tickets. The price of a discounted ticket was 80% of the price of a standard ticket. 153 standard tickets and 47 discounted tickets were sold for a total of $2,649.34. We're also given the graph of a line that represents one of the equations in a system of equations for this scenario. Ultimately, the question wants us to estimate the price of a discounted ticket if the second equation in the system is y equals 8/10 times x. This problem is definitely one of the more challenging questions, but I'm going to break it down for you like I broke the Phillies back in 22 to determine the best estimate of the price of a discounted ticket for the baseball game. Graph the second equation on the same coordinate plane as the first one. The coordinates of the point of intersection represent the cost of each ticket. It appears that the x value of the intersection is just below 14 and the y value is just above 11. X represents the standard price and y represents the discounted price, so we really only need to consider the y coordinate, which again is just above 11. Looking at the answer choices, the only reasonable answer is D, or $11.15. Espero que disfrutes el resto de tu día. Vamos, Astro. Está bien, ahora intentemos eso de nuevo, pero en español. El número 30 dice que hay dos tipos de boletos vendidos en un juego de béisbol: boletos estándar y boletos con descuento. El precio de un boleto con descuento era el 80% del precio de un boleto estándar. Se vendieron 153 boletos estándar y 47 boletos con descuento por un total de $2.649.34. También se nos proporciona el gráfico de una línea que representa una de las ecuaciones en un sistema de ecuaciones para este escenario. En última instancia, la pregunta quiere que estimemos el precio de un boleto con descuento si la segunda ecuación en el sistema es y igual a 8 décimas veces x. Este problema es sin duda una de las preguntas más desafiantes, pero voy a desglosarlo para ti. Como rompí el equipo de los Phillies en el 22, para determinar la mejor estimación del precio de un boleto con descuento para el juego de béisbol, gráfica la segunda ecuación en el mismo plano de coordenadas que la primera. Las coordenadas del punto de intersección representan el costo de cada boleto. Parece que el valor de x de la intersección está justo por debajo de 14 y el valor de I2E está ligeramente por encima de 11. Pues sí, que representa el precio estándar y esta paqueta representa el precio con descuento, por lo que realmente solo necesitamos considerar la coordenada o hipono, que nuevamente está ligeramente por encima de 11. Mirando las opciones de respuesta, la única respuesta razonable es D, o $11.15. Hasta la próxima.
Hello and welcome back. Number 31 says a sequence is defined by f of 1 equals 27 and f of n equals 1/3 of f of n minus 1. What are the first 4 terms of the sequence? To understand this problem, you need to know that a sequence is an ordered list of numbers. Here the sequence is defined by f of n, where n is the term number. Once you understand that, you can see that they simply give you the first term, which is 27. To find the values of the next 3 terms, substitute in 2, 3, and 4 into n. Now we found the first 4 terms of the sequence, so we can see that option A is correct.
Hasta la vista, baby.
You stand in the presence of Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, rightful queen of the Andals and the First Men, protector of the 7 kingdoms, the mother of dragons, the Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, the Unburnt, the breaker of chains.
Number 32 says, the table represents some points on the graph of quadratic function g. What is the range of g? The range of a function is the set of all its outputs. In other words, all of the y values of g of x. If we want to determine the range, it would be nice to see the function. Even though the test does not give you a blank grid to graph on, you can always create a sketch on your own paper. It is acceptable if your drawing is not to scale or 100% accurate, but hopefully by plotting these points, you can get a good idea of what y values are represented. Once you have plotted all the points that are represented in the table, we can see that the graph is somewhat U-shaped and appears to take the form of a graph called a parabola, which is the graph of a quadratic function. Here's what that parabola would look like. From this graph, we can see that the vertex is a maximum and is the point 3/2, 19/4. Since this is the highest point on the graph, the y value of 19/4 is the largest y value that the function will take on. Therefore, the range is all real numbers less than or equal to 19/4. And the correct answer is B. You know what? I've had enough of these algebraic riddles. ROGAN guitarist.
Welcome back, class. As we all know, I usually teach chemistry, but today I'm going to teach you how to solve this algebra problem. Multiplying polynomials is an essential skill to master algebra. And if you want to be successful in chemistry, you'll have to understand the basics when it comes to algebra. Anyway, here we're multiplying 2a plus 5 by 3a minus 2. To multiply polynomials, we are going to use the distributive property. Usually you use this property when multiplying a single term by a polynomial, but we can still apply it in cases like this. First, let's multiply 3a by 2a plus 5 to get 6a squared plus 15a. Then do the same thing again, but distribute to the -2. We're almost done here, but we need to combine like terms, which are these two linear terms with just an a. Now we can go ahead and select the correct option, which is C. Okay, class is dismissed. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
Number 34 says printer ink costs $18.99 per cartridge. The company that sells the ink cartridges charges a flat rate shipping fee of $7.95 no matter the number of cartridges purchased in a single order. Then we're asked to model the total cost for a single order as a linear function of the number of cartridges. To determine the linear function that models the total cost T for a single order of C cartridges, use the slope-intercept form of a linear equation. The only change I'll make is to use the variables C and T, which are given in the problem, instead of X and Y. Since the printer ink cost is a constant rate, $18.99 per cartridge, this represents the slope of the function, so M equals $18.99. Since the shipping fee is a flat rate, $7.95, no matter the number of cartridges purchased in a single order, this represents the initial value, so B equals $7.95. Therefore, the linear function that models the total cost for a single order of cartridges is T equals $18.99, C plus $7.95. The correct answer is clearly D. Have a great day.
Hello. Number 35 would like us to simplify the expression stated in the problem. To do this, we will need to use a few exponent properties. First, though, let's change this division problem into a multiplication one. Multiplying fractions is a little easier than dividing them, so since division is defined as multiplication by the reciprocal, all we need to do is reciprocate the second fraction, and then we can change that division symbol into multiplication. Now let's rewrite that first term as a fraction so the multiplication is a little more obvious. When you multiply fractions, you multiply both the numerators and the denominators. After completing the multiplication, it's time to bring in those exponent properties I was talking about earlier. First, multiply the y terms using the product of powers property, which says that if you multiply two powers with the same base, you can add their exponents. Similarly, we can combine the x terms using the quotient of powers property. This one states that if you divide two powers with the same base, you can subtract their exponents. The expression is now simplified. Notice that this is not a multiple choice question. you'll have to drag the correct answers to the blanks. The answer is x to the 4th power times y to the 4th power. Now we're done, so goodbye and take care. Thanks for watching.
Hello everybody. Number 36 says, this year the number of students who participated in sports was 317. Each year the number of students who participate in sport increases by 4%. Interesting. Let's model this scenario with an exponential function. The general formula for an exponential equation is f of x equals a times b to the power of x, where a is the initial value and b is the growth factor. X in this case represents the number of years. In this problem, the initial number of students was 317, so that is the a value. To calculate b, add 4% to 100% to get 104%, which as a decimal is 1.04. All you have to do is set up the equation, so at this time we can select the correct choice, which is C. Thanks for stopping by, and I wish you the best of luck on this exam and in your future endeavors.
On number 37, we're given two tables that represent points on a line and are tasked with finding the equations that represent these two lines. For line A, find the slope using the slope formula. It doesn't matter which two coordinates you pick, so I'll pick the first two. After substituting in these values and using a calculator to simplify our result, we can see that the slope is -6. To find the y-intercept, set up an equation in slope-intercept form with the slope we just found. Then, plug in any point into x and y. After a little simplifying, solve for b. Since we know now that the y-intercept is 15, we can write the full equation for line A, which is y equals -6x plus 15. Using properties of equality, change this equation so that it takes the same standard form that we see in the answer choices. Since there is only one answer choice that has 6x plus y equals 15, we can conclude that the correct answer is D. However, if you perform the same steps on line B that we did for line A, we can confirm 3x plus y equals -9 is the correct second equation. Where you go from here is a choice I leave to you.
Hi y'all. Here on number 38 we have a function named g that is a transformation of the parent quadratic function. The parent function has a vertex at the coordinate 0, 0. So if we can figure out which transformations are being applied, we should be able to find where the new vertex is. The x minus 3 inside the parentheses indicates that the graph needs to be shifted to the right 3 units, and the -9 corresponds to a shift 9 units downward. As I said before, the original vertex is at the origin, so after being shifted right 3 and down 9 units, the new vertex is at 3, -9. This is another one of those drag and drop problems, so make sure you drag 3 into the first blank and -9 into the second. And that's it. Have a great day.
Give it up for Steve Harvey!
Thank you, man. Yeah, dude. I appreciate it, folks. Well, I'm your man, Steve Harvey. Folks, we got a good one for you today. It's the Kendrick family. And it's the Drake family. Everybody's here trying to win themselves a lot of cash, and somebody might pass the STAAR Algebra 1 test. Top 4 answers on the board. Here we go. Number 39 says, which expression is equivalent to 24 GH minus 12G squared plus 18G?
Well, Steve, thanks for having us on. First of all, Drake may think he's the sixth god, but he's really just a sixth gone, like a hexagon. What I know is you first have to factor out the constant 6 because 24, 12, and 18 are all divisible by 6.
Is it a 6? Rick Ross, what else can be factored out?
Just like everybody over here, Steve, a certified G.
Do we have a G? Okay, yay. The rest of your family has done the algebra. All you need to do is to select the right answer.
Good answer.
It's just one answer. Winner take all. Here we go. Drake, which answer choice is equivalent to 24 GH minus 12G squared plus 18G?
Steve, come on. You know I got this. The correct answer is C, as in see you later. Bye, Felicia.
For the win, is it C? I'm Steve Harvey. We'll see you next time, folks.
Hola, ¿qué tal? También voy a darle una vuelta en español después de haber explicado en inglés, así que si sos un nativo del español podés saltearte a la segunda parte de este video. Okay, back to English. Number 40 says a company advertises on 2 websites. Each website charges a different amount based on the number of clicks on the advertisement. The table shows the number of clicks on each website and the total cost for each of 2 days. What is the cost per click on website 1? To determine the cost per click on website 1, set up a system of equations where x represents the cost per click on website 1 and y represents the cost per click on website 2. Well, the first equation will represent that 15 clicks on website 1 and 29 clicks on website 2 cost a total of $94.14 on Monday. The second equation will represent that 25 clicks on website 1 and 29 clicks on website 2 cost a total of $121.15 on Tuesday. Now, there are a few different ways we can solve this system, but since the coefficients of y are the same, I'll go with the method of elimination. Subtract the second equation from the first to obtain negative 10x equals negative 27. Divide both sides of the equation by negative 10 to get the solution we're looking for, $2.70. Since x represents the cost per click on website 1, we can go ahead and select choice D, and we're done. Buena onda, now we'll go over it again in Spanish. El número 40 dice: una empresa publicita en dos sitios web. Cada sitio web te cobra una cantidad diferente en función del número de clics en el anuncio. La tabla muestra el número de clics en cada sitio web y el costo total para cada uno de los 2 días. ¿Cuál es el costo por clic en el sitio web 1? Para determinar el costo por clic en el sitio web 1, establezca un sistema de ecuaciones donde X represente el costo por clic en el sitio web 1 e Y represente el costo por clic en el sitio web 2. La primera ecuación representará que 15 clics en el sitio web 1 y 29 clics en el sitio web 2 cuestan un total de $94.14 el lunes. La segunda ecuación representará que 25 clics en el sitio web 1 y 29 clics en el sitio web 2 cuestan un total de $121 y 15 centavos el martes. Ahora hay varias formas diferentes de resolver este sistema, pero dado que los coeficientes de x son los mismos, utilizaré el método de eliminación. Reste la segunda ecuación de la primera para obtener menos 10 por x es igual a menos 27. divida ambos lados de la ecuación por menos 10 para obtener la solución que estamos buscando, $2.70. Dado que X representa el costo por clic en el sitio web 1, podemos seleccionar la opción D y ya terminamos. Chao, hasta luego.
Snoochie boochies.
Howdy, y'all. A customer purchases an electronic device for $650. Each year, the value of the electronic device decreases by 30%. Which statement is true about the graph that represents the relationship between the value of the device in dollars and the number of years since the device was purchased? Here we have a scenario that can be modeled with an exponential decay function. When you write an exponential function, it should take the form y equals a times b to the power of x, where a is the initial value and b is the decay factor. In this problem, x represents the number of years and y represents the value of the device. Since the customer purchased the device for $650, that is our initial value. To calculate b, subtract the 30% decrease from the 100% you started with to get 70%, which as a decimal is 7/10. A shortcut here is to know that the initial value is equal to the y-intercept, so the correct answer is A. However, if you forget that little fact, you can also find the y-intercept by substituting 0 into x and evaluating the expression. Peace out, y'all, and I'll see you down the road.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Eric Andre Show!
That's all I had planned for the show. What should I do now?
I don't know, do a monologue or something.
Yeah, okay, I got that.
All right, so, Albert Einstein.
He hasn't been in the news too much lately, right? It's like, where are you hiding?
Alberto?
He's dead, man.
Are you serious?
Don't look, work the crowd, man. Don't look at me.
All right, whatever. So, number 43 says, what is the solution set for the linear inequality y is greater than or equal to negative x plus 2? First, let's graph the line. Just like the directions indicate, we are going to select 2 points in the coordinate plane. Then the online system will graph the line for us. Notice that the y-intercept of the line is 2. This will be our first point. Since the slope of the line is -1, we can also find a point at 1, 1. Select solid line if it isn't already chosen. We know it should be a solid line because the inequality is greater than or equal to. The important part here is equal to. If the inequality was strictly greater than, we would draw a dashed line instead. The last part of answering this question is deciding whether to shade above or below the line. This inequality says y is greater than or equal to the expression. When an inequality says y is greater than, you shade up. So, we will select the region above the line. While the points on the line represent solutions to the equation y is equal to negative x plus 2, the points in the region represent the solutions to the inequality y is greater than negative x plus 2.
Hi everyone. Number 44 says, the graph shows point P and line M. Which equation best represents the slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the point P and is parallel to line M? Well, since parallel lines have the same slope, let's first find the slope of line M. We can choose 2 points to calculate the slope. I'll pick 0, -3, and 2, 0. Plugging these points into the slope formula tells us that the slope of line M and all lines parallel to line M is 3/2. Next, we can substitute the slope and the coordinates of point P into the point-slope form of a linear equation. Finally, let's simplify our equation and isolate the y to put the equation into the same slope-intercept form that the answer choices are in. And there we go. We can see that the correct answer choice is C. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Good evening from Mr. Schuler's math class. I welcome you to a presidential debate between former President Donald Trump and current President Joe Biden. The audience here has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions except right now as we welcome our participants. President Trump, which equation is equivalent to S equals PH plus 2B when solved for B?
First of all, thank you for having me on this wonderful platform. This question is by far the most difficult question any algebra student will face. Only I can solve it, and so I will show you how it's done. Notice how all the answer choices have the variable B isolated. That means we need to solve for B. To do that, subtract PH from both sides, which results in S minus PH equals 2B. Next, divide both sides of the equation by 2. Now we can clearly see that the answer is obviously A.
Thank you for that clear and concise explanation. Now we move on to the next problem. President Biden, the domain of part of a linear function named R, contains all x values greater than 5. The range contains all y values less than 2. Which graph could represent this part of R?
Well, I really appreciate you having us here. Let me break this one down for you. Since the domain only contains values greater than 5, the graph needs to be to the right of x equals 5. Notice how choices A and C don't meet this requirement. The range contains all values less than 2, so the graph needs to be below y equals 2. This eliminates answer choice D. At this point, I have complete confidence that the correct answer choice is B.
All right, I want to thank you both for a very robust debate, and most importantly, thank you to those watching. Have a great night.
Number 47 gives us a function named g. The question is asking us to find the value of the function when x is 20. This one is probably one of the easiest problems on the test. All you got to do is give that 20 the old and slide that baby into x. Use your calculator to evaluate the expression and you get 282, which is b. See you later.
Number 48 says the graph of a linear function is shown on the grid. What are the x-intercept and the y-intercept of the line? So here's x. So what does it mean intercept?
The x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis.
-2 and -7 is where they both. 2 and -7.
Look closer. Is that 7 negative?
-7. I mean, just 7.
Good job. Now what do you think is the correct answer choice?
So it's gonna have to be, to start with, it's either B or C. B or C. It's definitely not this one. It could be that one. It could be that one. And it could not be this one. So it's either C or B. And the Y intercepts 7, but none of them say 7.
Ooh, interesting. Read the answer choices again.
8 or 4. Oh, it's 8. It's not B, it's C.
Great work. You solved the problem.
Yay.
Number 49 says, the graph of a quadratic function is shown. Which values best represent the zeros of the function? To identify a zero of any graph, whether it be linear, quadratic, or otherwise, all you gotta do is take a look at the x-intercepts, which are where the graph crosses this horizontal axis right here. Since the graph crosses at both -1 and 3, those are the 2 zeros. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and remember that even if you can't see me, never give up.
Well, this is it, the last problem on the test. Let's rock. A construction worker built steps up to a home. The table shows the linear relationship between the height off the ground in inches and the number of steps. Let's take a closer look at that table. 3 steps have a height of 21 inches. 5 steps have a height of 35 inches. I'm starting to notice a pattern here.
3 times 7 is 21, 5 times 7 is 35, 7 and 7 make 49, and so on. I'm going to read the actual question to see what we're supposed to be looking for. What is the rate of change of height off the ground with respect to the number of steps? That's a funny way of asking. How tall is each step? Well, we already know the steps are 7 inches because of the pattern we noticed before. So after looking at these answer choices, there's only one logical conclusion. The answer is C. Good luck on your test. Keep on slaying.